Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Denver Psychic School podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Fritz. Thanks for tuning in. And today we have a special guest with us. Her name's Virginia Castillo, and she's a licensed clinical professional counselor with over 20 years of experience in the mental health field. She is the owner and founder of Silver Lining Psychotherapy in Chicago, providing mental health services to people of all ages and backgrounds. She's the co-founder of Vision of Profound Healing, a meditation school offering classes and healing sessions via readings. She's also the co-host of Vision Chat, a podcast for those starting out on their spiritual journeys. She's a mental health therapist, entrepreneur, psychic, empath, healer, and medium. She's also a mother, guide, teacher, mentor, student of life, and for life. All right, Virginia, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So one question I always like to ask guests is, maybe when in their life they got into spirituality and kind of what was that like? Kind of what got you into it? Um,
So you're going to start with the hard question.
Hey, this is the easy one.
What is Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, how did I get into spirituality?
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a hard and fast answer for that one. I was thinking about
Hmm.
this. Because spirituality, I think, has always been present in my life in one way or another.
Sure.
So growing up, it was religion. It was like
Hmm.
growing up Catholic.
Hmm.
And then grew up with my parents who immigrated here from Mexico, and
Hmm.
Mexican culture is like infused with Catholicism.
Hmm.
Um, but I won't speak for all Mexicans. There's so many religions, but I mean, in our family, it was the Catholicism. So we grew up with Jesus and Mary
Mm.
and angels and saints and prayer and going to
Mm.
church on Sundays.
Hmm.
So I was always kind of there.
Yeah.
Um, Back then, it was just like Sunday church, and then
Hmm.
you do your prayers, especially before bed, or like if we're going on a car ride for some
Ah.
reason,
Hmm.
do the sign of the cross.
Yeah.
Anytime you needed extra protection, if I was going to take a test and I hadn't studied, pray really hard. Please, Jesus, help me. I need to pass this test.
Hmm.
Things like that. But it was always kind of there.
Right.
Um, and I don't know that I would have called it spirituality back then because I didn't know
Mm.
um, the broader sense of what that. It's like such a big umbrella
Oh yeah.
with
Hmm.
so many different things under it, right? So
Hmm.
I think my spirituality journey took a turn um, more definitely into this area of my life or part of my life right now
Hmm.
back in like, I don't know, I want to say before COVID. So maybe like 2019
Hmm.
was probably when. So at that point, I had gone through kind of like a personal crisis
Mm.
and I needed to reach out. I don't know, I was looking for something. I was
Right.
looking for like extra help, but I was like, what do I need?
Mm.
Therapy? Do I need something else? Like, I need to really sort this out.
Mhm.
And I remember that I would commute to work and it was like at least a 40-minute ride. And
Mm.
I would listen to podcasts. And I like this podcast in particular that my friend made. So this was like
Mm.
a former colleague of mine from back in the
Mhm.
day, and she started up a very successful practice, and then she got into podcasting. And I was like, cool, I'm going to support her. So I would
Mhm.
listen to this podcast every day on my commute. So she became my best friend. She never knew it. I never told her, but she was my best friend.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, and she would have like her take was like, I want to talk to therapists or mental health people, but also like explore other aspects of it. Like, what
Mm.
about spirituality? What about um, racism? What about, all these things?
Mhm.
And then one day, I heard this woman on that she was interviewing, and she was a therapist in Chicago,
Mm.
which is also where I'm at.
Mhm.
And she was also a psychic.
Ah,
And I was like, wow, that's interesting.
yeah.
Just my ears perked up and I'm turning it up and I'm like, what's this about? And I was fascinated with her story. I was fascinated by how she was kind of incorporating that kind of work with what she was doing, but also maintaining it separate because, legally we're not supposed to be able to, like mix those things. It's kind of frowned upon. Anyway,
Sure.
but I thought, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know something like that existed. And then
Mm,
growing up, you know, psychic meant
mm,
tarot cards, witchcraft, looking into the future through
mm.
ways that you're not supposed to. This is very taboo. This you will go to hell,
Right.
basically. You touch any of these things, you're gonna go to hell.
Right.
So I was like, "Oh, I'm doing something kind of bad here. Like maybe I shouldn't,"
Uh-huh.
you know. But I was like, "Well, let me see. I'm looking for something. I don't know exactly what, but I had a feeling like I think she can help me." So I emailed her. I
Mm,
was like, "I don't know if she's taking clients. I don't know if she'll respond, but I'm gonna email her, reach out, see what happens." So I did. And then a couple days later, I get a reply and she's like, "Hey, you wanna come in? I have a wait list going, but if you don't mind waiting." I said, "I don't care, like, I'll come
mm,
in whenever."
mhm.
Eventually, we connected, and I started seeing her. And, so that was Erin Diedling,
Ah, mhm.
mutual friend.
Yep. Mhm.
Um, and she started I think she was, like, the first person that I can say truly saw me.
Mm,
I can't even describe what that felt. I think I cried.
mhm.
I was just like I sat in the room with her, and it was just like this immediate, like, she gets me,
Uh,
and I didn't even have to say much.
right.
Usually, I have like, you meet someone, and you have to kinda warm up, and you're talking about things, you get to know people
Right.
in that way. With her, it was just like, I don't know, it was just like she knew me, she saw me, and it
Mhm.
was such a relief.
Right.
It can be a very scary thing to be seen, but
Mhm.
with her, I felt safe.
Right.
And it was warm and inviting, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is, like, awesome."
Mhm.
So over time, we started, delving into more of the spirituality and the psychic stuff, and I was amazed. And
Mm.
I kid you not, I would feel tingling on the top of my head
Uh,
sometimes when
yeah.
we would be there talking, and I was like, "Erin, I don't know what this is, but my head's, like, tingly. It's just the top of my head." She's like, "It's just your crown lighting up."
Mhm.
And I was like, "What? What
Uh,
crown? What are you talking about? Light what?" But
yeah.
she would use terminology like that, and I didn't understand. Um, and she would so one day she just told me, like I said, "Erin, I can't see stuff the way that you do," because I was starting to get curious about it. And she's saying,
Mm,
"Everybody could do this."
mhm.
I'm like, "I can't. I can't see it the way you do. I don't have that control. I can't decipher things. I don't know what's happening."
Mm,
She says, "Well, um, if you wanna learn, I'll put you in touch with someone.
mm,
He just opened up his school. He's teaching people. Very ethical. I trust him 100%, like, you want somebody you can really trust with this stuff."
mm.
And the way she put it can I curse?
Yeah, you could. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I was like, I don't
Yeah, go for it,
if
have
not,
fun.
this is where you would wanna edit this out. But
Ah.
she's like, "You don't want anybody messing" like, how did she say it? Like, "You don't want anybody messing with your fucking truth." And I was like,
Ah.
"Okay. Alright. I like
Uh-huh.
that.
Yeah.
Cool. Who is this?" And then she introduced me to you.
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." Um, she says, "I can let him know, you're gonna be reaching out." I said, "Okay, sure." I didn't really know what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
really didn't. I know it sounds stupid, but I really didn't. I think
Yeah.
if I had known, I might not have, to be honest with you. I might have been like, "I don't know if I really wanna put myself through all that."
Mhm.
Um, but at the time, I didn't know, and I was like, "Yeah, cool, yeah, psychic stuff. Awesome. I'll do it." By then, it was, I think March already, 2020 or April of 2020,
Yeah.
and here in the US, we had just gone into lockdown from
Yep.
COVID.
Yeah.
So, like, everybody's scrambling, trying to figure out how to keep working, how to stay inside, how not to die,
Right.
um, crazy stuff. So, I was like, "Well, I can do it virtually. Sure, why not?
Mhm.
What else am I gonna do
Right.
if I'm stuck inside?" This is a great time to explore spirituality. All right. So
Mhm.
signed up, get in contact with you. And then I think I've told you I must have spent the first 5 classes just crying
Mm.
because then I could see or I could sense that you were the second person now that truly saw me.
Mm.
And you were very kind and very nurturing and very just like, okay, this is what we're going to be doing.
Mhm.
And that's how my journey started. So,
Yeah.
very long answer.
No, that's great. And, yeah, I mean, I can relate to that. I think it's always that's why I asked that question because it's such a fascinating kind of how it started and kind of how that led to each person kinda getting into this. And, yeah, usually, especially when you get into, a psychic meditation class and going on to a clairvoyant training, you kinda don't really know what what you're getting into. And, yeah, sometimes if you fully knew everything, you might go, I don't know if I really wanna dive into that. That sounds kinda tough." And, I had a similar thing where, when I was going through, getting into this type of energy work, I knew I was in the right place, right time, but really didn't know why I was doing this or what it was all about. I was just like, "Yes, I'm doing this." And then, yeah, when you start to get into it, then you go, "Whoa." So, yeah. So that's a perfect kinda segue into, you took a year-long clairvoyant training kind of after just kind of getting through, like, a basic meditation series. Um, you know, to you, like, what is clairvoyance, and what was it like going through that year-long that journey?
Oh boy, where to start?
Yeah.
Like you said, I did not know. I thought I was just gonna learn like, just some basic meditation and just I didn't even know. I was like, this could be cool.
Mhm.
At that point though, I think the first set of classes you offered were only like 6 and before taking the year long, and I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I wanna commit like a year, but
Right.
whatever, we'll do it,
Mhm.
right? And I took it alone, which I know is also not something that I don't know, I guess maybe it's not the best way to do it, or it's not generally the way people take these classes, but I took it
Right.
one-on-one.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of intense.
Yeah.
Um, Again, if I had known that, maybe I would have opted for a class, but I was like, "No, no, no, I'll just do a
Mhm.
group class, I'll just do the individual one."
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So that training, I mean, the rewards, right, are like you find inner peace, you learn about your center, you learn about
Mhm.
neutrality, which I struggled with a lot.
Mm.
Um, I think it took me a good solid 2 years to finally get to a place of really understanding it
Ah. Mhm.
and being like, "Oh, this is what it is."
Right.
It's like one of those things that you learn about, you're like, "Yeah, I got it." But then, you keep learning about it, keep learning, you practice it, it comes up in different ways, and then you get maybe down the line to a certain point where you're like, "Oh," something happens or it clicks.
Mhm.
Like, "Oh, this is what it is. Okay, I got it." Um, and it's fine. So there was some really, really neat stuff.
Mhm.
Um, Again, finding inner peace. The world was on fire, and I was like, "I'm cool. I'm okay."
Right.
Um, the dark side of it, I guess. There's a
Yeah.
dark side?
Mm.
Unintended consequences? I don't know. I don't know if this was a good or bad thing, but I somewhere down the line, and I've talked about this, I think I might have shared it with you, and I'm open about it, is,
Mhm.
so I did like to drink. I would drink alcohol, and I would
Mhm.
love coming home and just having my wine of glass after work, and it was my
Mm.
routine. Sometimes I'd look forward to, I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to get home, have my glass of wine, I'm gonna be relaxed, I'm cool."
Mhm.
And, somewhere along the way, I just starting these meditation classes and the clairvoyance training, and I just stopped, and I couldn't because I would feel sick.
Mhm.
It was like there was no peace or calm that came when someone maybe has a drink and they get kind of like in that nice mellow phase. It was like it skipped that part,
Mhm.
and it would go into the part where you have a headache and you feel like crap.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Whoa, wait, what happened?"
Yeah. Where's the feel
And I
good
was like,
part?
yeah, I was like, "No, this is not good." And then I forced the issue and I'm like, "I'm gonna try again."
Mm,
I might have so maybe I went from 1 glass, half a glass to a quarter of a glass to like, "Okay, yeah, I can't do it."
right.
Um, I don't have an answer for why that happened, but I do attribute it to the
Mm,
clairvoyance training and because of going maybe into these other levels and other vibrations, and that just wasn't matching with me.
right.
No judgment against anyone that drinks. You enjoy your drink, cool. It's
Mhm.
fine. Drink
Yep.
responsibly.
That's always good.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. It just didn't vibe with me.
Mhm.
It just wasn't matching, and it didn't make me feel good, so I stopped.
Right.
Um, I think your question was what is clairvoyance to me also, right?
Yes. Yep.
So, clairvoyance is being able to see.
Mm,
So, I kinda have, like, this thing where I'm like, I had to close my eyes to be able to see clearly,
mm,
because when we're doing the trainings, I mean, just so people know if they sign up, it's like you're closing your eyes during the whole thing.
mhm,
You sit there closing your eyes,
mhm,
doing these exercises, and really going inward, and the point of the clairvoyance is to be able to see images in your head.
mhm.
That's clairvoyance to me.
Yep.
And not just any images, it's like because you can think up anything you want. Images with an intention.
Right.
What do I wanna look at? And one of the important things that you taught me was like, well, everything's energy. What do you wanna look at? You can look at whatever you want. And I was like, "Wait, what? Really?
Ah,
Anything?" Yeah, everything is energy.
mhm,
Okay, so there was my other, like, important thing to understand,
mhm,
and then the world would look differently to me. I'd be driving, I'd be walking, I'm like, "Oh, everything is energy. I can see it."
mhm.
It's like The Matrix, like,
Oh,
when
yeah.
you can finally see The Matrix and you're like, "Oh,
Right. Which is
this is what it is."
yeah, and that could be really empowering and profound to have those experiences. Um, I think something for me, and I'm sure other people experience it, I don't know if you did, where you start to feel, you kinda might feel like you're fitting in with people, you know, and then you start to go through this and you're going through so much change and you start to see everything differently. And then you start to go, well, I'm seeing things differently, but maybe these other people aren't seeing the same thing. Then you start to feel um, a little isolated in a way where you're like, wait a second, I feel like I'm awake in this big dream and other people are walking, like they look kind of like they're sleepwalking around. And you start to feel kind of alone, kind of not in a way where you're like at one with yourself, but kind of just like, hey, what's with all the other people? And how do I navigate that? Is that something that you kind of experienced at all? Or how did you, if you did, how did you manage that?
Yes, I lost friends.
Yeah,
Does that
yeah,
answer your question?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, people that were like, "Yeah, we're buddies and, friends for life."
Right.
Gone. And I'm still to this day reeling from it, being like, "Well, but I don't know what happened." Yeah,
Yeah.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's common. For me, I think for other people kind of going through something like this, taking these type of trainings or just kind of going deeper down the spiritual rabbit hole, so to speak. Um, so how did you manage that? How did you like if I feel a little separated or isolated, how did you did you start to find like-minded people and kind of build like a different type of community for yourself? Did you kind of just is it just kind of more kind of a stronger relationship with yourself or you still felt or a combination of those things? Like what worked for you to navigate that? 'Cause that's kind of tough sometimes for people.
It was very lonely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, it was. It
Yeah.
hurt to lose people.
Yeah.
And so then, that also made me a little bit more like, "Okay, I can't walk around talking about this stuff to everybody.
Yeah.
I can't, right? Because I'm gonna sound loony. Everything's energy, guys.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
sure. It's just, eh, you know, it's a very different world. The spirituality world is very different from the rest.
Right.
So, it's like walking this line in between both worlds because if I completely go into the spiritual, I'm gonna lose touch with the reality of everybody else, and
Right.
I won't be able to relate.
Right.
The flip side of that, if I ignore the spirituality and go and just I'm gonna unsee everything that I've seen
Mm.
and plug me back into the matrix, I'm not gonna be happy.
Mhm.
I can't. So that's why, like, I lost friends and it hurt. I also realized I can't really talk about this with everybody. I should probably find my community,
Mhm.
like-minded people.
Mhm.
But at that point, we were still, there weren't gatherings.
Oh, the lockdown,
I
yeah.
wasn't going I mean, there was no in-person place to be like, "I'm gonna go talk to my buddies in class.
Right.
We'll hang out afterwards and chill and talk about all this stuff," like,
Mm.
maybe, play around with energy. Let's fuck around with it, see what happens. No, I
Yeah.
can't,
Right.
right? That would've been cool. I couldn't do that.
Right.
So, it was kind of like, "Oh, I'm gonna keep this really cool thing to myself, and if I kind of get the gist that someone maybe is a little into it or open to it, then I'll slip something in there like, "Oh, yeah, guess what?" You know?
Yeah.
But no, unfortunately, I did not navigate that well.
Mm.
Um, but I did eventually find community,
Mhm.
and just made some really awesome friends. So,
Nice.
to anyone that's doing this kind of training, like, yeah, find your people and be
Yeah.
prepared to lose some, and that's just how it goes, and make peace with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think fun and finding the community for you is definitely helpful, but yeah, in that process, unfortunately, you're gonna outgrow certain relationships and which is that's fine,
It's
that's
okay.
okay, but
Yeah, it's
it's
okay.
yeah, cool. Um, what are some other ways you noticed that, um, taking that year-long training, whether it was during the training or kind of even, like, after, because it seems like that will have a kind of ripple effect on you kind of throughout the rest of your life. Taking that year-long training or doing that type of energy work, how has that impacted you during then and also kind of after? Is there anything else that kind of comes to mind in a way that it's helped you or just influenced you in any type of way?
During the training and after?
Either or both, doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, I guess there's like a before and after for me.
Mhm.
Before, walking around well, I'll backtrack a little bit
Mhm.
to because I forgot to mention this very important book
Ah.
that you also like.
Uh-huh.
For me, it kind of was very similar. This book was very meaningful, and it was "You Are the Answer" by Michael Tamura.
Mhm.
That book actually came up during a reading.
Mm.
One of the first ones that I did with Erin, and she's like, "Okay, well, I'm being kinda like, I'm supposed to tell you to read this book."
Mhm.
I was like, "Cool. I'll get homework from spirit. Nice." So I bought the book, read it, and it really did change my life. So there was like a before and a
Mhm.
clear after from that moment on of really understanding, walking around being a body with a soul
Mhm.
and living that way. And the switch of coming into the realization, "Oh, no. Wait a minute. I got that wrong. I'm a soul with a body."
Right.
Huge difference. Huge.
Mhm.
My world got flipped upside down in a good way.
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, god, well, this changes everything." It really does.
Right.
Um, just when you come into that realization, and that's part of what kept being reinforced in the training of being, an eternal being,
Mhm.
an eternal soul, like, it just changes the way that the perspective of life, how you see things, the choices you make, what you focus on, and
Mhm.
what you're just like, "Nah, it's
Right.
not that big of a deal." Really. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. I don't really have to sweat it. Is that easy? No. No. Like, that comes with, like, okay, I still sometimes sweat the small stuff because it really aggravates me. And I'm like,
Right.
like, "This didn't go right, or this went wrong, or this is." But
Mhm.
then, it's like being able to pull back from it and be like, "Okay, let me find my center. Let me, like, look at this and the big picture.
Mhm.
It's not that big of a deal."
Yeah.
What I have found that's interesting sometimes, I think I'm still learning this lesson because I keep making the same mistakes again over and over again, but I'm
Mm.
learning
Mhm.
that sometimes when things happen and they don't go the way that you intended them to go or that you wanted them to go,
Ah,
it's okay.
right.
I don't have to lose my shit.
Yeah, yeah.
The tendency is there for me to lose my shit, but I'm like, "Okay, hold on." And the times that I have been able to sit back, sometimes to my amazement, the things sort themselves out.
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even have to do anything. Look at that."
Yeah, and that's tough. That's, that's a tricky one. I
It
think
is.
everyone has their, like, certain thing or things where they lose their space to, um, but yeah, that's, being able to pull back. I notice if I when I'm not trying to control things, and that's a big subject, and that's kinda a little bit we're talking about now, is that then magic there's, like, room for magic. And just sometimes it's just like, all right, I just need to step back and just let things unfold naturally and not try to pump the brake and control it and resist it and fight it. What happens if I let go? And that sometimes is scary. I'm just like, okay, I'm just, yep, okay, I'm gonna trust spirit here, and
Yeah.
that could be tricky. So,
Yeah, it's scary. Sure is. Yeah, it's not easy. Yeah, if you get, it depending on what we're talking about, right? So there's some
sure.
things that, okay, you could step back and be like, all right, let me see how this unfolds. And some things where like maybe you can't, like maybe you like there needs to be some kind of action,
Hmm.
right? But can you hold your space while you're doing that?
Right.
Can you trust? And that letting go almost feels like a free falling.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, I'm
Yes.
flailing here, but I gotta trust it.
Hmm.
That's really hard. That's why that's scary.
Yeah.
But then you realize, "Oh, okay, wait, but this works.
Right.
It does." And the more I can lean into that, actually, the better. The more I can it's like surrendering,
Hmm.
accepting,
Oh yeah.
and that's very different from, like, giving up. Nobody's saying give up, because giving up is like, "I'm just not gonna try anymore. I don't care. I
Yeah.
give up." That's not what it is at all. To surrender and to accept is very different. It's a very different energy.
Hmm. I agree.
Like, I'm gonna trust and just let go,
Yeah.
and it'll take care of itself. I'm not giving up, I'm just giving into
Mm,
the power of energy and spirit, and it's just gonna I'm not gonna fight it.
yeah, that's really well put. I like that. I like that a lot. Um, so as you know, and other people that do this type of stuff, that sometimes there's more than just a year-long clairvoyant training. Some people, these graduate level programs with this type of energy work, and you went on eventually to take what was called the inner dimensions training, like a 5 months training on exploring kind of the major dimensions of our universe with highlighting kind of the higher inner levels, which is very, very, very different from the clairvoyant training. Um, what was that going through that experience like? Um, how would you describe that to people, and what was that like for you?
Well, I'll backtrack a little bit again.
Hmm.
Um, that training, I think, didn't come up until It was maybe 6 months after the year-long clairvoyant, or am I wrong? Did it it
Honestly,
feels like there was a big gap.
there definitely was a gap. I just don't recall how exactly long, but
Okay.
yeah, there was definitely a gap,
Oh,
sure.
there was a gap. I didn't
Yep.
take anything. So I was
Mhm.
done. You're like, "Go live your life." I'm like, "No, I want more classes." "Okay, then. I'll do without." But, like, the classes to me really became, um, it was like my crack. No offense to anybody. No offense to anybody.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
I became kind of, like, very addicted to this stuff. Like,
Mhm,
it's like, "I want more. I want more. I want more. What else can I take? What else can I learn?" I love learning, and this stuff really stimulated me. It was like, "Oh my goodness, what else is there?"
mhm.
It seems infinite,
Yeah.
right? So, I was like, "Oh, man, I gotta take a break. Alright. No classes." Um, kept doing, like, some meditations, kept trying to practice the basics so I wouldn't lose that skill and have it be more of a practice,
Mhm,
regular practice. Um, and then what was really interesting was I think when you put out those classes where you were like,
mm,
I think you had put them out on social media and
mhm.
it was like inner dimensions training. I was in Norway.
Ah.
I was visiting friends in Norway and I saw the post and I was like, "Ooh, this looks good." Like, I was like, "Ooh, this looks really good." Um, wow. But I was like, "Well, I'm in Norway. Let me just, hang out, enjoy, and just never been to Europe." It was the first time there. I was like, "Oh my god, this is awesome."
Mhm,
And I was what made it more special is that I had gone to visit some friends and Stina,
mhm,
um, and I knew Stina kinda had the same love for classes and learning that I did.
mhm.
So I was like, "Hey, Stina, check this out. Have you seen this? Like, these classes sound cool, right?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah." I said, "What do you think? Should we take them? Do you wanna take them together?" Because this time I thought, "Hey, it'd be cool to have
Mm,
someone else in the class with me," or
mhm,
I don't even know if that was gonna be an option to do it one-on-one, but I think it wasn't. I think it was supposed to be, like, more than one person, and I was like, "Hey, do you wanna do this?" 'Cause
mhm,
that I didn't know if you had other people or not.
mhm.
But, I saw she was looking at him, she was like, "Oh, yeah, this looks really cool. Let's do it." And I was like, "Well, send Andrew an email, see what he says. See if he'll teach us." And she was like, "Yeah, he said yes." I said, "Alright, cool. As soon as I get back, we'll set this whole thing up, and then we'll do it."
Mhm.
So, that training, I wanna say was one of my favorites.
Ah.
It was just so I can't even describe, like the best way to describe it would be to say, like, that was about taking some really incredible spiritual field trips to, like,
Mhm,
all these places. Um, I know it's gonna sound weird, but to people that don't know, but it's to all these, like, different spiritual places,
mhm,
um, crystal caves and, like, I don't know, a threshold,
mhm.
I don't remember, like, the campus, Akashic
Spiritual campus. Yep.
Records. I mean, all kinds of places, and, you know, it was very, challenging also in the sense that I don't know about Stina. For me, I had a hard time, like, "Wait, we're going to the ninth dimension. Okay." So I kept thinking out.
Ah.
We're going into granted, yeah, I know it's inner dimensions, but I was thinking outer dimensions, outer space somewhere. I don't know, I kept thinking out.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And
Mhm,
we were going out of body.
mhm,
So here we are going practicing being in trance, running the white loop, and going out of body,
mhm.
which was that part was also challenging.
Right.
There was a lot of, like, I kid you not, I had vertigo a lot of the times, and I had a little bit of, like, nausea going
Mhm,
on, and I was like, I'm,
mm.
slingshotting all around the place, in and out of my body going to these places.
Mhm,
But it was so cool, you know, and figuring out, I think I don't know, just having the experience of being in these places and just everything that there was to see,
mm.
Um, yeah, it was
Was
really cool.
yeah. Was there a particular uh place, so to speak, that you enjoyed the most going to throughout that training that stood out to you?
The threshold,
The threshold, yeah. Yeah.
I didn't wanna come back from there.
Yeah,
If
that's
I
definitely
had the choice, I wouldn't come back.
yeah, that
Why
could
would
be
I ever wanna leave? Insane to me why anyone knowing what that place is would wanna leave. I mean, and just to explain it from just my perspective of how I experienced it was, like, just this beautiful beautiful to me,
Mhm.
peaceful, open space, but it was my space. Um, where, I mean, I was pretty much there having the portals to all of these places that I could go to, and somehow being in charge of, like, almost like the design of it, like, "Okay, where am I going?
Mm, mhm.
What am I gonna do?" But it was so I can't even describe the peace and quiet in there. I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh my god, this is so nice." It really was like, the closest to heaven I guess I could describe.
Mm,
I don't know what heaven well, I don't have memory of what heaven is, but if I had to describe it, that would probably be it.
mm,
Just complete peace.
right.
And no rush, no sense of urgency, no sense of time.
Mhm.
The absence of time, which sounds kinda crazy because you know how many times I check the time throughout the day, every day.
Mhm.
Where am I going? What am I doing? What time is it? Do I have time? Nonstop. And to be in a place like that where it's like, there's no time, it doesn't matter. Doesn't exist here. Ugh. If I could stay there, I would have. Like I said, I would not have come back. So I really wish I could have spent more time there when we were doing that stuff.
Yeah, and maybe just for those listening that don't know what that topic is without going too deep into it, it's that, space that we can move into kind of in between lifetimes, like stepping out of this lifetime, kind of on the in between, so to speak. But yeah, it's really a profound place to kind of be and explore, and yeah, it certainly can be peaceful and nice. So
It
yeah.
was for me. I mean, the other one that I remember that I really liked was the crystal place. I don't know what that was, but it was like a crystal cave or something. And
Oh yeah, yeah, the healing crystals and yeah,
yeah, that was
yeah.
really cool. But it's just because I love crystals and I have them all over my house. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, cool. There's a place out there that has these things. Nice.
Right. Yeah. 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 That's definitely a fun one. And I don't know where kind of on your timeline this was, but I think you also took some type of mediumship classes.
Ah,
Do you want to talk a little bit about how that was, and kind of maybe what mediumship kind of meant to you, kind of in that relationship to that class or training you took?
yeah, the timeline of that. It's an interesting question. I don't know either. When did I take those? Somewhere in between these classes, I took some mediumship classes.
Yeah.
Um, I think I don't remember because I had taken some one-on-one classes, or like small group, and then I took larger group
Mm,
classes, and I took maybe I don't know. Those were segmented like into, ugh, I don't know, 10 classes at a time, maybe,
mm,
and there were breaks in between.
mhm.
I think maybe 4 of these courses. Anyways, I
Mm,
took mediumship classes and
nice.
mental mediumship.
Mm,
And I emphasize the mental because it's not trance.
mm,
Um, the trance mediumship is going out of body, allowing spirit to come in, being a channel in that sense.
mhm,
The mental mediumship really is more like you stay in body.
mm, mhm,
You're grounded, you're in your body. What you're doing is opening up your heart space and allowing spirit to come in and influence you
mm,
to be able to then deliver a message.
mm,
So it's really uh unique in the sense of, like, for me, So it's opposite. I kind of want to say it's kind of like the opposite of the clairvoyant training.
Mm,
There in the clairvoyant training, it was don't drop into
right.
your, feeling, sensing.
Mhm,
You really you have to stay in this central seat of wisdom, pineal gland,
mhm,
center of headspace. In that space, there's no feeling. That's neutral. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is.
mhm.
And that's how you do the clairvoyance. Mediumship is the opposite of that. So it's like, I'm going into mediumship classes being, I'm a clairvoyant. I could do this. I don't care, people. Like, I got it. No. Talk about humble pie, right? Like,
Mm,
oh, now I have to, kind of step away from that training and get into this place where I have to drop into my feeling
mm,
space because this is where I'm operating from. I
mm,
keep pointing down here because it's your heart space,
right.
it's second chakra, fourth chakra,
Mhm,
um, opening up. And it's from the place of, it's almost kind of like, yeah, just not being in here.
mm,
Actually, being in your head and getting pictures is discouraged.
mm,
It distracts from being able to really feel.
mm.
So then I'm like, how do I? It was such a struggle. I'm like, I can't do it.
Uh,
Yeah. So like clairvoyance training was a struggle because I kept wanting to be like, but I feel this. And you're like, no, go into your center of headspace. You're losing your space. Okay. Got that down somewhat. Right. And then mediumship's like, no, 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 no. Get out of your head. Get into your heart space. I'm like, okay, people, driving me crazy. Okay. Open up my heart space. All right. So then I have to get again, like, there's the discipline, right? And the focus of like, okay, when I'm doing mediumship, I'm doing this. When I'm doing the clairvoyance, I'm doing this.
Mhm,
Um, but basically mediumship drew me because it's always been something that has fascinated me. I've always been very pulled to that.
mhm,
And I just have always liked watching, shows, famous mediums delivering messages to people from their loved ones, deceased loved ones.
mm,
And I just thought what I liked was that it was so healing. Grief is one of the, worst things people go through. It's so painful.
right.
You lose someone you love, you know. Um, and to be able to bring relief to someone or healing to someone through this, through being able to, hey, I can connect with your loved one and give you the message.
Mm,
What is It's healing at another level.
mhm,
Um, so I'm a therapist and I've worked with people who are grieving. But now this would bring it to a whole other level.
right.
And I was like, this is awesome. If I can do this ethically, with respect, um, and I can help someone who's grieving, just wants to, all people really want to know is that their loved one's okay. Okay. As long as I know they're okay, I'm okay.
Right.
And if I can do that, again, ethically and with compassion, then great, amazing. That's what drew me to mediumship.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the type of training that I have for that. And I'll tell you, I mean, I've the few times that I've been able to do it, and
Mm,
either in classes with my classmates and being able to practice with them, or
mhm,
like if I've done a mediumship reading, it's such a beautiful experience. It's very different from clairvoyant training. I mean, clairvoyant readings, like the other ones that
mm,
are available out there. And I'm not saying it's better
mhm,
by no means. I'm just saying it's different.
right.
For me personally, I just feel like what a privilege for me to be able to be entrusted
Mhm.
by someone to channel a loved one. It's such a I mean, like, it made me nervous at first. I'm like, "You're gonna trust me? Like, this is, like, a big deal with this person that you lost.
Mm.
Wow, I better get this right."
Yeah.
And by that, I just mean, like, no pressure, right? Like, I just really, like, wanna be able to, like, respectfully make that connection in a way that can help that person,
Right.
the person sitting across from you. And it's so cool because I feel like I get to meet all these people in spirit.
Mm.
I'm like, "Wow, that person was really cool. Wow, that person was really intense.
Mhm.
Wow, that person, was very gifted in this and this and that." It's so weird to say that, but it's just like I walk away with selfishly, right? I walk away feeling good that I just helped this person who was grieving,
Mhm.
but I also walk away feeling somehow more enriched because I met this person who's in spirit.
Mm.
There was like a connection there. At least for a brief moment, there's a connection, and I got to learn about who they were.
Right.
It's amazing.
It is, yeah. Yeah, and that kind of what comes to mind when you talk about that is, um, just around, what happens when, um, the end of our lives, so to speak, our body life, when it's time for the body to go down and we transition into spirit. Has gone through the clairvoyant training, or any of your training. I'm sure like the inner dimensions, the mediumship, being in touch with other beings that don't have bodies right now, helping people that are grieving or have lost. Has that shifted your perspective, or relationship to like just death and dying? And
Oh, for sure. I
Mhm.
mean, I remember being like 10 or 11 years old and freaking out.
Yeah.
I did. I feel so bad for my parents. They didn't know what to tell me. They were like, "Oh,
Uh, right. Yeah. How
she's
do you?
subject." I remember crying, bawling
Mm,
when I realized death, right? Like, wait, we're gonna die, right? Like, we're all gonna die.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Why was I thinking about death and dying at 10 or 11? I don't know, but these thoughts were there,
Sure. Yeah.
right? And I don't know what triggered it. I don't know if there was a specific event. I don't know if I saw something. Point being, I realized there was death.
Hmm.
And I remember being so afraid because it was just like the realization, like, wait, everything goes black, right? Everything was black. And I could feel, sense, and like know that there was like just blackness.
Mm.
And it was like final. That's it. No body, no breathing. You're done.
Lights out.
Man, that's brutal. What?
Yeah.
And then I remember going through a phase where I was mad at God. I was
Mm,
like, how can you be so cruel? Why would you let me have existence, be alive, and then just kill me?
mm,
And then I'm just done. Like, that sucks. That's not fair.
mhm,
So I went through that phase, and um then kind of realizing, through the trainings and through just studying and being aware that, okay, well, my soul is eternal. Got it.
mm,
There's no death. Not in the way that I understood it.
mhm.
Death of the body, right? Yes, your body's gonna go. It's already starting to go.
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Yeah, right? And so I'm like, the gray hair is coming in, the wrinkles are popping up, like, ooh, celebrating birthdays is not great.
Mm,
That number just keeps climbing, and I'm grateful. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm so grateful to have these years, and I hope to continue to have many more. But you start to feel it. You're like tired. I'm tired. I look around, everybody looks like they're 12. I am just like, God, I'm getting
yeah,
old,
yeah.
right? The body's going. what brings comfort is like this, I don't know, sense of like, well, I get to do this over again if I want. I get to
Mhm.
come back if I want,
Right.
right? I'll be somewhere else. I just won't have a body. Or, I will when I'm already designing my next body. I'm already making a list of what I wanna do. I don't get to it this type lifetime, I'm like, "Ah, I'll do it next lifetime. It's fine. It's no big deal. No rush."
Mhm.
Whatever, I've done this over and over and over and over and over again, apparently, right?
Right.
Coming back, right? So then, I mean, there's kind of that feeling of like, "Oh, okay, you know, there is," and especially with the mediumship classes, what I've
Mhm.
learned is it's always love.
Mm.
When you're in spirit, it's love, and love never dies.
Mhm.
And that's just very comforting to me.
Right. Yeah, that is definitely nice to know and a good reminder, I think. Um, and then kind of going off the same theme of how, you know, getting into spirituality and taking trainings, how it's affected you, but to be more kind of specific, you're a parent, you're a mother. How has kind of opened up your awareness and getting into spirituality? How's that kind of shifted your role as a mother, if at all?
Yeah, I think it does, in some pretty big ways. Um, well, for one, I'm more open to talking about
Mm.
spirituality with my daughter, and I mean, she has her own inclination towards it anyway. I hope I didn't influence her. Like, I just want her to have her own make up
Uh,
her own mind about things, but maybe she sees me and it's kinda like, "Oh, that's cool, mom does that."
hmm.
And the thing is, like, she's so, I guess, interested in it,
Mm.
and, you know, it's so cute because she, like, does readings for her friends, and they go to
Oh,
her for
cool.
ques Yeah, they go to her for questions, and she'll pull cards, and you know, she does oracle cards and, she does readings in that way.
Uh-huh.
Teaching her how to, bubble up.
Uh-huh.
So, like when she's going to school, I bubble her up in the morning. I always like place a protection bubble around her, protection roses, send her angels with her. And I mean, I've taught her to pretty much do the same thing. And she's teaching her friends. She was like, one day she's like, Mom, my friend, I'll make up a friend.
Mhm.
A name. My friend Sammy's asking what color bubble she should use if she's afraid of the ghosts in her room. Very casually, like this is like nothing to her. And I was like, I don't know. Tell her to use like a dark blue or purple or whatever she feels comfortable with. It's the intention that matters. She's like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, got it. So she's teaching other people,
Wow.
her friends about this stuff. It's really cool. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that she's found, that her friends are open to it and they're not rejecting her as the weirdo kid that likes the crystals and is into spirituality and
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, she's actually finding a lot of acceptance, so her experience has been very different than mine, which I'm really grateful for.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we connect in different ways, like, I think I was telling you when we were interviewing for the podcast was like,
Mhm.
I think we're like, what's it? Telepathic?
Uh-huh. Telepathy, yeah.
Yeah. So she'll think something and I'll know it. I'll think something, she'll know it.
Uh-huh.
And we're doing this so often that it's kind of annoying. It's like, "I knew you were gonna say that. I was just about to bring that up." Or, it's like, "Oh, yeah, this thing," and she'll just know it.
Mm,
Um, it's been fun.
that's really cool. Yeah, that's cool that you can have that type of relationship and that there's that kind of sense of openness and communication about that. Not a lot of people can have that, so that's really amazing, I think. Um, is it anything with, like, dreams? Like, does she ever talk about, like or you to talk with each other just like, "Hey, I had this dream," or, "Whoa, I think this astral experience." Is that something that comes up at all?
Oh my god, yeah. That's so interesting 'cause we'll, like, sometimes have these little, like briefings in the morning.
Mm, mhm.
"Hey, what'd you dream about? Do you have any dreams?" And we'll, like, check in with each other, and it's so weird. I kid you not, like, maybe 2 or 3 times she was in my dream and I was in hers, and we almost had the same dream.
Ah, uh-huh.
So I feel like we were connecting on an astral level
Mhm.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the times, there's themes that repeat. And, like, she's a little bit more adventurous when
Mm.
she's astral traveling, and I'm a little bit like, "Where are you? Where'd you go? Don't run off, like, you scare me when you run off." She's running
Ah.
all over the place, going to all these different places, and sometimes it freaks me out. So, in the dream, and then I wake up and I'm like, "You ran away from me again." Like,
Uh,
"Sorry, mom."
that's funny. That's so cool, though. Um, and then kind of a similar question, but in a different role or setting would be kind of your role as like a therapist. Um, has doing this energy work shifted kind of you in that particular role? How you see things or maybe approach things or
Yeah, I'd say it complements the work. I've always thought, like, even going through the training, the clairvoyant training, how similar
Mm,
the classes and what the goals are is to therapy.
mm,
Honestly, I don't I kind of see them as being parallel
mhm,
and very similar in a lot of ways. Like, what you call blowing up pictures in clairvoyant training is really processing trauma in
mm,
therapy.
mhm,
It's just different terminology, but we're doing the same thing.
right,
We really are. You're providing people with tools so that they can heal themselves,
mhm,
break through some of these pictures that keeps them feeling stuck or unsafe or hurt so that they can get to this other side where they feel free,
mm,
happy, and clear.
right,
Therapy is the same thing. It's the
nice,
same, we're doing the same thing. So just we call it different things.
got it.
Now, can you intersect them? Yeah. Because they intersect naturally anyway.
Mm,
All along the way, I think. I don't think I've intentionally tried to use any of my, s spiritual psychic skills in
mm,
therapy, but I think they've always been there and I didn't even know it.
ah,
I could sense things or know most of the time it was knowing, it was the clear cognizance coming in, the
yeah,
knowing, and also the sensing of
mm,
things. And then I've had people throughout the years, like I used to work in a group setting and my colleagues, I would say that person's scamming us.
mm.
And then my boss would say, no, they're not. And then weeks later, proof came in. They're like, how did you know that? I don't know, lucky guess. I don't know. I just guessed it.
Yeah,
But back then, I really did think I was just guessing.
ah,
I didn't know, you know, it was already there.
mhm,
The classes helped me name it, focus it, and, have more control over how and when and where I use it,
right,
and more awareness of what I'm doing. Before, I was completely unaware doing things that I didn't even know that I had clear cognizance, that I had clairvoyance. I was already there. I just
mhm,
didn't know it.
right,
So, like, or a client would tell me, "How did you Yeah, that's right." I get a lot of, "Yeah, that's right." And, I was like, "Yeah, good guess." It was just a good guess. Yeah, based on what you're saying. Based on what you're saying, right? But it was like, they didn't say that. I just knew it.
right,
I knew it. It was, but I'm doing this because it was almost like this voice or this knowing in my head of like, this is what it is.
right.
And the times I've ignored it, oh my God. So
Yeah, yeah, I think, I definitely have some, and I'm sure a lot of people have, where they go against their intuition, their higher intuition in particular, and then you're, like, kicking yourself, like, "Ah, I knew it! I why didn't I just go with what I knew?"
right. Because you talk
Yeah,
yourself out of it. You're like, no, it'll be fine. It's
yep,
it's this, it's that. And then it's like, no, I should have listened.
yeah. That's a wonderful, I'm glad you brought that up, that ability, just in general and for everybody in their life, and, um, but in particular, it really goes hand in hand with, teaching, kind of your crown chakra and claircognizance and knowingness and higher intuition. Um, can you talk a little bit about kind of, getting into teaching and maybe about your school and what you do with Stina?
Yeah. So, in addition to owning my mental health practice,
Mhm,
um, last year I became co-founder of Vision of Profound Healing,
mhm,
which was originally started by my former classmate, current friend and business partner, Stina Bakistanhog.
ah,
And she designed the school. It's a school slash providing readings services place.
mhm,
And so what she envisioned this, she came up with the name, she came up with the concept, she had a beautiful website. Um, and I actually helped her on the website when it was just hers because
mm,
she had asked, she's like, "Hey, can anybody kind of give me like some feedback on this?" And not knowing that I was making an investment in
right.
what would eventually also be mine. I was like, "I'll help you out."
Uh-huh,
And she had a beautiful website, she had a beautiful setup, and it was all there.
mhm,
And, she she had it for a while, and then she came to Chicago to visit, last year? Yeah, it was last year. And actually, probably like a year ago exactly. She was
mm,
here, and I happened to ask her, like, "Hey, how's it going with with your school, with your place?"
mhm,
She said, "I had to shut it down.
mm,
I barely broke even with expenses and stuff. It was just costing too much so to keep the website up and keep the other things up."
mhm,
And I was like, "Oh, that's a shame." And then she went back home to Norway,
mm,
and, like, it kept it kept kinda just, coming up in my head like, "Oh, man, that's a real shame.
right.
Well, she had something good there." And, then I kinda reached out after some months of this playing in my head, and I was like, "Stina, I'm gonna throw something at you. You throw it right back if you don't like it or if it sounds like it's not something you wanna do.
Mhm,
But what if I go in half with you? I'll cover half the expenses, and we partner up,
mhm.
and we do this thing together." And she's like, "That's a good idea. I like it. Let's do it."
Nice. That's
So now
awesome.
splitting the expenses, and kinda working on it, and it's been developing over the last year,
Yeah,
you know, um, and it's been really fun. It's just been like a passion project. It doesn't there's no pressure. It's just like she has a day job, I have a day job,
mhm,
like, this is a side hustle, but it's a really fun one.
right,
And it allows like, we're both very creative. I think we're both very creative people, and so she kinda has, like, an outlet for her creativity, and I have an outlet for mine, and we
uh,
just happen to complement each other like that.
yeah,
And we've kinda just been changing it along the way, kinda like, "Hey, like, let's, start." We had a good solid foundation, mainly because she really worked on it, and I kinda just jumped in there,
mhm,
and then, over time, we've just kind of been updating it and changing it, and kind of it's been evolving. We had taught like, she taught some people, I had taught some people,
mhm,
not officially through Vision
mhm,
of Profound Healing, but just ourselves, and we had done some readings, and, um, I actually really enjoy teaching more than I ever thought I would,
mm.
because I was like, "Teaching's hard." I I don't know, man, like, it is not very rewarding. Students can be, challenging, and
Mhm,
teaching these concepts is really hard. There's no manual. You
right,
kinda just have to make yours up with what you know,
mhm,
and add to it maybe from other people
mhm,
that have come before or have books out or like teachers, we just took things and we're just kind of throwing them in there. And but it turns out, that I actually liked it more than I thought I would.
Mm.
It is very rewarding, and it can be really cool to watch somebody light up when they get it.
Mm, mhm.
It's awesome to see that. And so like I know that personally learning these concepts was very enriching for my life, and it's changed it and transformed it, and I want other people to have that experience.
Right.
That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
That's what drives me. I just want other people to have the same experience I had. Exactly the same, no, because everyone's gonna have their own experience, but I want them to have the opportunity to be like, "Man, that really changed my life.
Mhm.
That gave me back my power. That put me in control. That helped m I'm helping myself. I'm just giving you the tools. You do it."
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
it is. Yeah, being able to share that with other people, I think that's really an amazing experience to have, and to offer that. Speaking of offerings, is there any things you can highlight, or if there's anything that's coming up soon that you guys are offering, or readings, or workshops, classes?
Yeah, so we want to, offer a class, for people that are interested in learning basic meditation skills.
Mhm.
And so that's like, can't remember if we settled on 6 or 7 classes,
Hmm,
and we're starting, the first one up April 7th. So
nice.
whoever wants to sign up, they can go to the website. It's visionofprofoundhealing.com, and they could just sign up.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll link
And
that
the
below.
other things, thank you.
Yeah.
Other things that we're just doing is just, offering readings. I think we're trying to, really emphasize healing
Mm,
sessions. It's just a matter of the wording
mm.
because it's, eh, I kind of I think people have this idea that if they're going to get a reading, it's fortune telling.
Ah,
And that's not what it is at
right.
all. Not here to tell your fortune. I'm not gonna,
Mhm.
tell your future and, it does my crystal ball. No, it doesn't work that way. Don't
Yeah.
want anybody coming in with that idea, and unfortunately, I think people still have that idea of what a psychic reading is, and you're gonna tell me what's gonna happen, and
Mhm.
maybe something will come up about a possible scenario that can play out in a reading, but that, we all have, you know, free choice
Mhm.
and our own will, and we get to decide what we're gonna do. Regardless of the information I give you, you decide what you're gonna do at the end of the day,
Yeah.
but that people can see these more as healing sessions. So, like, if they're coming in having a question, being stuck on something, and they want it read, okay, I'm gonna I'll read it for you, and then you decide what you wanna do with that. It's not
Right.
up to me to interpret it. It's never up to me to tell you, "This is what you have to do," or "You don't do this." I'm never gonna do that.
Right.
There's free will, you have choices. I'm just gonna tell you what I see,
Right.
and hopefully that helps. The hope is that it helps,
Yeah.
that it helps you make an informed decision about whatever it is that you're having an issue with. Um So though, we do love readings,
Mm.
mediumship readings, we do space clearings if you feel like you need a spiritual spruce up in your office or
Ah.
home. Love to do those. Aura readings. Pretty much, those are the core ones. But I think if you just want a reading and want to see what comes up,
Mhm.
that could be really fun and interesting to look at. It might be something you're not even aware was there, and you're like, "Oh, that's interesting. I want to know more about that."
Right. That's
So
awesome.
that's what
That's
we're
aw
doing.
that's awesome. And something kind of in addition to that is that you both of you also have a podcast, and that's called, I
Ah,
believe, Vision Chat.
I almost forgot about that. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No
Um,
big deal. Yeah, the
yeah, speak
podcast, we put ourselves out there.
yeah, interviews, podcasts, what yeah, so how was your journey kind of starting that and just kind of to where you're at now and interviewing guests, and what's that been like?
It's so much fun. Again, like it more than I thought I would, because I
Hmm.
was like, "Wait, what are we doing?" We're recording, we're, putting it out there for the public. We're
Yeah.
advertising it too. We're trying to invite people to
Nice.
watch and listen. I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I'm like, "What? I don't have anything to say. What am I gonna say?"
Mm-hmm.
And Stina's like, "Let's do a podcast." And I said, "Oh, okay, let's do it."
Nice.
And I think we're both very introverted people and very shy and quiet people.
Mm.
And so you have now these, two very shy, quiet people really putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
Our pictures are everywhere. Our faces are plastered all over our website, on our YouTube channel. We're out there
Yeah.
for better or worse. So the interviews have been really fun.
Mhm.
We've enjoyed getting to know all kinds of people, and we're just inviting. The purpose of that is to really, um, help people that are starting out on their spiritual journeys, and they're just like,
Mm.
I want to see, like I'm kind of dabbling into this, so that they learn what's out there. Anybody that's curious about spirituality can kind of just check in and see what all of these wonderful, diverse people that we have on have to say.
Mhm.
Um, and we don't always 100% agree with everything they say, but we're kind of more just neutral parties
Right.
putting the information out there. It's like take what you think works for you, what you align with, and leave the rest. Don't take it.
Yeah.
But we want to put it out there. Just different people's beliefs and medium, psychics, spiritual people.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's fun to kinda just be open to whether you agree or disagree, that you can
Yeah.
have people on and just hear different perspectives and you go, "Whoa, okay, I never thought about it that way," or, "Oh, I never even heard of that," or, "That's interesting," and, yeah, and then different people that watch can relate, or they can choose what
Or not.
they want with. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You like it, great. If you don't like it, it's okay.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, but it's
awesome.
been fun. I love talking to different people and just getting to know what how they see things.
Right. Cool. And then, you mentioned the website. We'll link that below. As far as kind of what platforms you like, on YouTube or Spotify, or where can they find that podcast?
YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. I'm leaving one out. TikTok? No, TikTok's just no, it's like, Stina does this. She's the young
Okay.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
She's in touch with all these platforms, and she puts
Okay.
the podcast out.
There's a
But
lot. There's a lot of different
I
platforms.
wanna say iTunes, YouTube, Spotify.
Okay.
I don't know what else it's out there
Okay.
on.
Well, we'll list those at least, and wherever else it pops up, then you can check that out. But
We're trying to get a TikTok account going. That's why that popped into my head, but I'm
okay.
like, "I don't even have TikTok, so I'm gonna have to download the app and figure it out."
I know. I personally have. I don't have one. I never had one, and I feel it makes me feel old.
Oh my
Like,
god, I was just about to say, like that's why I said Stina's the young one, and she knows about this stuff because 'cause I'm like, "I
yeah,
don't know." And
yeah.
everybody's on TikTok, and I'm like, I watch TikTok reels that are reposted in Instagram and someone forwards them.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't have TikTok, but, like, I feel left out and old because I'm not following up with it, so right, same here. So I'm gonna have to
Yep.
figure it out. And by the
Oh,
time I figure that out, something else will come up and
a whole other platform. You got to get. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Just technology grows and faster and faster. Yeah. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything before we kind of close out? Anything you think that we missed, that you want to touch on that we possibly didn't get to hit?
I
It's
don't think so. That was pretty thorough.
okay. Perfect.
Yeah. No, it's been great.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show and to chat with you. Everyone, that are listening or watching, go check out their website, go check out their podcast, Vision Chat, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.